King. I'm a Vice President of the Legal and Voters of Bergen County, and I want to welcome you. I want to thank the River Edge PTO for organizing this in, I would say, less than 2.5 weeks. I want to thank the candidates for participating. Thank you for submitting questions in advance and this evening. We could be here for 3 hours asking and answering questions, so I guarantee we're not going to get to them all. But to let you know, the League of Voters does not support or oppose any candidate or party. We study the issues, and education is certainly one that we are very concerned about. This evening, the program will be in 3 parts. The candidates have a minute to each make an opening statement. Then we'll have the question and answer period. Each candidate will get a chance to answer each question. The timing for that will be at my discretion because some of the questions are a little more involved. And then there will be closing statements of 2 minutes each. In the front, at the front table, we have 2 ladies who are keeping time. For instance, if we're in opening statements and there's a 1-minute time limit, after 30 seconds has expired, they will hold up a yellow card, and if you would hold it up high so the audience can also see, hold it up for a couple of seconds. Hopefully the candidates will try and keep their eye on the timer. When the 1 minute is up, they will hold up a red card saying it's time to stop, finish your thought, finish your statement. And then we'll go on to the next person to answer questions or make their opening statements. I always call on the candidates randomly, so they have to listen as well because I bounce around. But everyone will have a chance to answer each question. I don't think there's any other things I have to inform you except that the proceedings are being recorded, and we hope to mount it on the League of Women Voters YouTube site. It's LWV Bergen County channel. I can't guarantee it will be up tonight, but within a day or 2, hope to have it there. And we're ready to start. So we're going to have opening statements. The candidates drew lots to determine who was going to speak first. And our first speaker is Demetrius Papyrus. 1 minute.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start out by thanking the League of Women Voters and the PTOs from Roosevelt and Cherry Hill School for putting this together. I also want to thank the other candidates up here. I know it's not easy to put yourself out there, and I commend anyone who's willing to stand up and volunteer for the Board of Education because it benefits everybody. My name is Demetrius Papyrus. My wife and I moved to River Edge 7 years ago, and like many of you, we moved here because of the school district, our primary reason. And I have a daughter in 2nd grade at Cherry Hill and a son in 5th grade at Cherry Hill. I have a pretty diverse background in leadership, starting with managing restaurants and hotels in New York City. Right now I'm the vice president of a commercial real estate company managing construction and the day-to-day operations of over 3 million square feet of retail and office space. I was a member of the 2020 River Edge School District Reopening Committee, where I worked through the entire summer of 2020 to open Roosevelt and Cherry Hill safely for every student.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kang.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank the Roosevelt and Cherry Hill PTO for hosting this event and League of Women Voters for moderating. I want to thank the public for being here tonight. I know that we all are very busy, and I just thank you for coming to be informed and to listen to all the candidates. My name is Un Kang. I am the current president of the River Edge Board. However, tonight I am here as an individual seeking re-election. So whatever I say is my own opinion and personal thought. It is not a representation of the board. My husband and I moved here with our 2 children in 2016. I was a former teacher in Manhattan for 10 years. And 3 years ago, I ran for the board because I felt that I could contribute as an educator and just be a voice to our community. I think that being a board member requires a lot of listening and collaboration, and I've done that with our current board, and we have accomplished a lot, especially during the pandemic. So thank you for your time.
Our next candidate is Chu-Shen Sim.
Chu-Chang. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chu-Chang Sim. I serve as a member of the River Edge School Board for 9 years plus, because I was appointed 1 year before I was elected as a board member. I have children. I've gone through the public school in the River Edge. They are all grown up now, and serving River Edge School Board is my extension of service to the community as a firefighter and also EMS as a member of the ambulance corps. I thank you for League of Women's voters and also PTOs also. This is a very exciting moment. And then why don't you have this for the council members? There's a councilwoman busted. Why don't we have this for the council members? Thank you. Enjoy tonight.
Next is Lauren Teifel.
Hello, my name is Lauren Default. I'm a mother of 3 young girls, a 2nd grader in kindergarten at Roosevelt Elementary. I'm originally from Rockland County, where I was a student at the Clarkstown Central School District, after which I attended Fairfield University, where I majored in accounting and met my husband. 4 years ago, we moved to River Edge. Professionally, I've worked in program management for different banks, and my day-to-day was defining, mediating, budgeting, and progressing projects between traders, developers, and management. However, my reputation really stood with my ability to coordinate different groups of people with different interests and deliver the best possible outcome for the group as a whole. Last year, I started attending the Board of Ed meetings and started using my professional skills to organize parents who felt their children were missing out on a full day of learning. I am running for the board because I believe there is still more work we can do to improve communication, openness across our district, and in turn, improve the education for our children. Thank you.
Sebastian Mascarella.
Hello, thank you to the League of Women Voters, PTO, and you for coming out tonight. My name is Sebastian Mascarella. I'm married with 3 young children, ages 12, 9, and 4. I haven't lived in River Edge very long, but I've been coming to this town for a very long time because I have a family here. I've always been the place I wanted to live, and I finally made it after several stops. As for my background, I have a bachelor's in MIS and an MBA in international business. I've worked in the financial industry pretty much my whole life, across roles in technology, finance, and compliance. I'm also a certified personal trainer on the side. You may have seen me in Memorial Park teaching some exercise classes. Like many parents in town, my kids are involved in sports and activities. I've been a baseball coach, a softball coach. I'm a River Edge wrestling coach for the junior club, and I've done numerous volunteer events. I'm an ideal candidate for the board, so I'll put my heart into this job like I do everything in my life. You get me 100% dedicated to serving our kids in our community. No shortcuts, no nonsense, full transparency. Thank you.
And our last candidate is Ariana Hastings.
I'm grateful to be here tonight and would like to thank Lindsay Martin, both the Roosevelt and Cherry Hill PTOs and the League of Women Voters for setting this up. My name is Ariana Hastings. I've been a resident of River Edge since 2011. My husband Peter was born and raised here. I have 2 children currently attending Roosevelt, a daughter in 2nd grade and a son in 1st. I'm currently serving as the vice president of the PTO and class parent for both of my children and a member of the junior women's club. Professionally, I'm co-owner and billing manager of 5 Physical Therapy. Our family loves the small town feel of River Edge, and since becoming a mom, I have spent much of my time volunteering both of the schools and around town. I decided to run for the Board of Ed to be a voice for all families living in our town. My children will be students in the school system for many years to come, and it's important to me that we maximize the effectiveness of our schools while ensuring the safety of all students, faculty, and administration. I look forward to answering the questions as honestly as possible tonight so that you feel confident.
Thank you. Now we go to our Q&A portion. We're going to give a minute to answer the following question. What do you see as a major issue that the River Edge School District faces? What suggestions do you have for addressing it? And we're going to start with Mr. Muscarella.
This is an easy one for me. The biggest issue we have right now is the loss of learning during the pandemic and getting those kids back up to speed. There's been a McKinsey report that's come out that says children on average are 5 months behind in math, 4 months behind in reading. Those are unacceptable numbers. Unfortunately, the damage is done and we're going to need to repair that. So I appreciate with the work that has been done thus far in River Edge, trying to get these back up to speed, spending more time on those core subjects and a little bit less time on the special subjects. We have to obviously continue that. We also need to focus on our children, which is that currently get special education, kids with IEPs. They're even further behind. So that is quite a challenge for the child study teams and other teachers in the district. So I'll end there. That is the number 1, 2, and 3 priorities.
Mr. Sims, 1 minute.
We just hired the new superintendent, and she'll be working from December 8th. So since we have a new leadership, obviously, because board doesn't do the micromanaging, we just let the superintendent run the school district. So we have to provide full support for her and implementing her goals and what she shared a vision with us and help her settling in the school. That's obviously imminent thing I can address. Thank you.
Ms. Hastings?
I second what Mr. Muscarella said in regards to loss of learning, but I also know that our schools are running out of space, and so we're going to have to try to figure out how we can best utilize all of this going forward, especially that some of the new families have moved into town. So I would say that's a major issue.
Mr. Bakura?
The biggest priority would be immediately assessing our kids and understanding the learning gaps and learning loss from the time that they missed last year and addressing it in a targeted way. I'm a little disappointed that in a pandemic year, we still have to wait until November to have a parent-teacher night and understand where our kids are. I think that should have been addressed already. Another major issue that we need to address is the curriculum. Every parent hears that their kid is right where they should be, but we need to establish an expectation of excellence and shoot to perform at a higher level than that. Communication, but not in the way that some people think. I don't think anyone on the board or anyone in our school is being sneaky or trying to do anything in secret, but I think we do need to do a better job of being proactive in communicating to parents and making it easier for them to find the resources and speak to people in the school and even on the school board. We can make it easier for parents to attend Board of Ed meetings, participate. We have to manage the budget effectively, and we have to make sure our kids have the emotional and social support that they need coming back from missing so much school.
Before we continue, people in the back say, please enunciate a little more clearly. It's very difficult to hear with the masks on, and sometimes if you're not speaking directly into the microphone, it doesn't project as much. So, Ms. Kang?
I think a major issue that we have to address in the near future is an issue that we had to address prior to the pandemic, which is space. We were increasing enrollment and we were about to lose space for classrooms, for arts, for music, and that continues to be an issue because Right now, as much as we want to assess and we will assess the students and see where they are, if we don't have the space to have small group instruction, then there's nowhere for them to go and have that. And so we have to address the space issue first and make those rooms available. If we hire extra teachers and make smaller classrooms as we hope to do, then we need to have the extra space in the classroom to do that and keep our numbers low in our classroom. So right now we have to plan for the future, and that's looking at space.
Ms. Tyson?
Thanks. Sorry, it's default. I think everything that the candidates have hit on are 100% major issues. And I think behind a lot of them is understanding the data behind it. So right now, like, we're waiting on state tests. I think the kids took already, waiting for those results. What is frustrating, when you look at previous year state tests, it's based just on math and then ELA. Where I think we could add a real value to our students and to our teachers, and in turn hit on those other points with working with our new super, addressing where we really need to hone in, where space might be an issue, is understanding exactly where we need to focus on a grade level, on a subject level, that we can work with teachers between the two schools, and for the district as a whole, and just in terms of understanding where we need to focus for our kids. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is going to be a minute and a half. And I do want to mention that, I don't know how many people submitted variations on this question, so I tried to synthesize them, and hopefully the candidates will address them properly. Okay. What is your position on following COVID protocols in our schools? Specifically, mandatory masks for all kids, staff, social distancing, indoor, outdoor, barrier separation. Has your position evolved, and if yes, what factors were involved in this evolution? And we're going to start with Ms. Kang.
I feel like COVID protocol is my life for the last 2 years. Starting March 2020, as we were finding out about COVID and doing research every day, reading up on the new things that came up. I think with mandatory masks, that was a mandate coming from the governor. And so we have to follow the executive order. And so with that, that is our role as a board and as a school district to follow the law. In terms of social distancing and barriers, those at a later time, they became recommendations. If you can't do certain things, like social distancing, the mask should be worn. I think that over time, we've gotten to know more about the virus. We've gotten to know more about the effects of it, but we've also had vaccines roll out where people have the choice to get vaccines. So for me personally, my concern were the students. Are we vaccinating students that were in our classroom this year? And what are we going to do to make sure that they are in the classroom as much as they can be so that they don't have additional learning loss? And so in that term, having masks on, and it is mandated, but it prevents the kids from having to quarantine. It prevents them from having to miss another day of school or having to Zoom in from home. I think that's the priority, and that's my thought.
Mr. President?
So, like Ms. Kang said, it's a mandate right now, and the Board of Education has to enforce the mandate when it comes in regards to masking. Nobody likes masks. I can't wait until we can take our masks off, and especially for our kids to take them off in school. And in the last year and a half, I've heard a lot of frustration about what other districts have done with their COVID response, and that sometimes River Edge might be lagging behind. But what's often lost in that conversation is the consequences that those other districts have faced. The beginning of the year, Tom's River was mask optional, and over 900 kids had to quarantine. 250 kids tested positive. There have been school districts where unfortunately teachers have died. And we've been extraordinarily lucky in River Edge because of our precautions. We learned that barriers aren't as effective as we thought they were. Social distancing is important. And look, if we want a full day of school, which should be our priority, we have to do everything to keep our schools open. Right now, that means masks. Numbers are going down. Just today, vaccines for children got, made some progress. And I think there's a good chance we might be able to remove masks soon. Of course, our position has to evolve as the science evolves. As the numbers go down or up, we have to make adjustments, and you need someone on the board who's flexible and will do what's right for every child in River Edge, not just their own children or for their own beliefs. And I think that's what it means to sit on the board of Ed together with the team.
Mr. Paul?
Yep, so we've been, I think, it's about probably a year or over a year and a half into this new world of COVID. And 100%, I think we were all very fearful in the beginning. We all were impacted in numerous ways, depending on our role professionally, whether you were a teacher, doctor, nurse, or whether you were just someone who lost someone or dealt with the issue head on yourself. But here we are, a year and a half in. Adults have the ability to be vaccinated. Vaccines are coming for kids. For those that, I think a lot of parents would be eager to get them, maybe some more than others. And then we have state mandates to keep everyone healthy as well. I think we just need to be open and continue to discuss it like we have. Think of the different, the priority and balance of what's best for our kids holistically, meaning their education, social well-being, and mental well-being, and also everyone's health as a whole, the community as a whole. So I think it's great that River Edge is such a highly vaccinated area. I think that gives us a lot of flexibility that hopefully we can continue to see less restrictions as the year goes on. And yeah, just back to more of a sense of normalcy for our kids. Thank you.
Mr. Sim?
I personally believe individual choice on any issues, but as a role, my role as a board member and also as a first responder, I see this differently. So I first, even as I said, I believe in personal choice, but I got vaccinated because I serve other people. I don't want to affect other people because of me. So school setting also, we don't have much choice as a school board. We vow to abide by the state law. So as governor issued the order, then we have to follow it. We have to implement it as our policy. So there's not much room we can do with the mask mandate. But the social distance, to open the school safely, we may be creative. That's the obvious possibility. So when superintendent comes up with any suggestion or any way to implement it in a creative way, I'll obviously support it. Thank you.
Ms. Mason?
I personally do believe in parental choice, but I also know that it is very important to follow our mandates and whatever the protocol is for school. So while I do hope one day that our children can go back to school with their masks on, I do understand that it is very important at this moment that we have them. Roosevelt has done a very good job of getting our children outside as much as possible so that they can have mask place. Personally, that is very important to me, the fresh air that they can have while they are in school, and learning outside, and I think that's all. That's all.
Mr. Papir?
I answered the question again on Mr. Muscarella. the number one role of the board is to look out for the educational welfare of our children. Outside of mandates, we have mandates, there's nothing you can do about that, whether you like them or not. But there are opportunities earlier in the year in terms of interpreting guidance, whose guidance from a particular agency, whether it be the CDC, the government, where we could have done more for the educational welfare of our kids, but we chose a different direction. We chose be safe, which I understand. And that's fine. And if you want to tell the parents we're making choices for the safety of the community, that's excellent. But we weren't really shown data to back that up. We weren't given information to back that up. We were just told this is what we're doing. So when you get that type of message, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth. And I'm being blunt with you because many of you have already seen me at the board meetings, know me, and this is how I feel. I don't have a strong position on the COVID protocols that have been put in place. I do think some are fine, but we are now way into this, and our kids are still sitting outside on the floor eating lunch. So I still think there's a lot we can do. We made good incremental steps when Mr. Ropel came in. I think the parents had a lot of influencing in that. I'm proud to be one of those parents. But when you're up for interpreting guidance, and your number one role is to look out for the educational welfare of the children, that's what you have to do.
Thank you. Our next question is going to be a minute each. There are many parents that have issues with special services that are needed from the child study team. Instead of the parents having to fight tooth and nail for their children, how can you help ensure that every child is getting the special requirements that they need? And we'll start with Mr. Sims.
I cannot personally guarantee anything, but we have a built-in system so that a child studying and also special education has a protocol the following up. If the issue wasn't addressed by the, study team or and there was a complaint from the parents, you can address it in hierarchical order. But it doesn't satisfy everybody, but we have to make sure the system we have is followed properly, and then everything is addressed for the best benefit of the children who need the special needs. Thank you.
I think that special needs and special education is very important in school. I think that I will be honest, I do not know much about it. If I am elected, I will certainly do whatever I can to learn everything that I need to know. But I would say that, in my opinion, early intervention is definitely key to helping get these children what they need.
Mr. Muscarella.
I think special needs is worth the investment, I'll say that. So if there is money to spend, if there are resources to deploy, this is the place to put it. As we evolve across all facets of the world, we're getting smarter at medicine, mental health, technology. We're identifying new types of special needs that they have that maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago they did. So I think when we think about special needs, we have to be open at first. We have to really listen to what's going on, really evaluate the children, understand where the needs may be. There might be some new things that we didn't know yesterday that we know today, and we have to put forth a solid plan for those children. And
Okay.
I think that as a board member, I would start working with the superintendent to look at what resources are available and what systems and process are we communicating to the parents of how to go through it. As a parent, if this is all new to you, it can be very daunting. And so do we have the right information to share with the parents of how to go about bringing this up to the teacher and then to the principal and then maybe to the superintendent? As a board member, I think that we would have to look at what resources do we have when we are planning for our budget. Is it that we need additional teachers, interventionists? Is it that we need the space? Is it that we need additional child study team member because we have an influx. As a board member, I would have to look at those things to provide the best opportunity for the parents and for the students to get the help that they need.
Thank you. So I know there are state and federal laws that protect students that qualify for IEPs, or in terms of getting the attention to even, get the classification of an IEP. And I think where we can help as board members and do more for our district, specifically as a board member, is to understand where that really affects the students of River Edge. So as the different qualifiers where a student might then receive an IEP, where do most students fall within that range? And what are we doing for them? And how does that change year over year? I think having that flexibility is really what you need because the IEPs are so specific per student. So I think focusing on our district specifically, and then also echoing in on budget. What are we providing for them? I know we do get additional aid for special education. So how is that used specifically? That would be great to know to realize how we can improve it going forward.
Thank you. And Mr. Papir?
So 13.9% of the students in River Edge School District are special needs. And when you see that number, you realize that it involves a lot more parents than you think. And I think there's a common theme of communication that goes with special needs students that are with every student, that there needs to be proactive communication. The fact that special needs parents haven't met with teachers yet to understand their progress reports for their children is wrong. I think we need to do a better job of that. I think special needs children should be pulled out of the classroom. I know it's a time issue and a space issue, but we can work on that and make them feel more included in the day-to-day activities. They shouldn't be missing any lessons. They shouldn't miss recess with their friends where they have social development with the rest of the kids. And I've spoken to a lot of parents actually since I started this campaign, and I realized that even though we're better than a lot of other schools, we have a lot of work to do when it comes to special needs kids. And what does that say about every child returning now from a pandemic who might have a need to recognize and do the right thing to support those kids?
Thank you. Before we continue, it has become apparent that Mr. Correll, when you speak, your microphone may be too lower. Is there a way to pick up the sound? I think he might be the only one hooked up into that little work side.
Testing. Hang on with this. Testing, much better.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Going to give you a minute and a half. As a board member, where would you look to make budget cuts? Are there any areas where you would not consider cutting? Conversely, are there areas where you would like to increase funding? And all this by balancing fiscal responsibility and educational excellence. So we're going to start with Mr. Moscarella.
Well, I'm not on the board yet, so I don't have transparency into the budget, the dollars we're spending on a line-by-line basis. But I will say, when you're trying to make that decision, you got to look at your return on investment. Are you getting the value that you expected to get based on the money that you spent on that particular activity? Is a demand there for it? So have we paid for something that just isn't being used? These are the types of questions that you would ask to determine whether you want to propose a budget cut or not. I will say though, without actually seeing the dollar amounts, as I mentioned earlier, special needs, that is worth the investment tenfold. We have children with IEPs, as Demetrius mentioned with the statistics. They need the attention, they need the time, and we need to be open to other kids that currently do not have IEPs that might need the evaluation to be part of those programs. So if we're going to spend more money, that's right.
Ms. Control.
Thank you. So I've seen that there's a general, I guess, stat that's published in terms of the cost per student, and that does seem to go up year over year. All the same, we have a great school district. So I think it's definitely understanding the drivers behind that number and other numbers. Other things that I'd like to understand, just again, since being involved in the campaign and just hearing more from parents, people within the community, is a little bit more about Newbridge Center and what that does for us when it was originally built and what the long-term plans are. I've heard that was supposed to be a source of income at some point. So I think there's so much behind the budget and each line item to understand to really answer that question fully. What we can't do, and I think everyone would agree on that, is it can never be at the risk of our students or our teachers. And additionally, I think another thing in terms of just moving funds, there's a lot of talk about space. I think that's always something that seems to come up year over year. But, you know, we see the for sale signs going up and more families moving in equally. So it's definitely something that we can't hide from. We should have a tactical solution and then really a long-term solution as well in terms of how are we going to have the correct infrastructure that we need for River Edge students tomorrow.
Ms. Karen.
So the budget process begins with our superintendent, our administrators, and our teachers and staff to evaluate what are the needs of the school district. I think that what the superintendent recommends is something that we as board members have to really evaluate to see, is it necessary? Is it something we have to do now? Can it wait? I think that one of the things that we mentioned before is facilities. We always have to make sure that our buildings are maintained, our boilers, our air conditioning. If we don't have the right resources for our buildings, we need to make sure that we put the money away so that when something does break, we have that money to spend. So although indirectly it affects this, it indirectly affects students in that, you know, it doesn't seem as obvious as, let's say, smaller classrooms or teachers. It is something that we do have to really consider. I think, as I'm not sure who mentioned, we do have to reevaluate and look and see what are the things we're spending in our budget that perhaps we thought was useful a few years ago when we started implementing it, but maybe perhaps hasn't worked the way we thought. So a lot of that, as the new superintendent comes on, is something that she and the administrators will evaluate to see what can we do to cut and where.
Ms. Mason.
So this again is another question that I really do not know the answer to, and I don't want to speak out of, I don't know. I would say that we need to put more money into special needs and definitely the space problem that we have. And I'm not sure where we will be able to cut things from, but hopefully if I were to be elected, I would definitely look into it and see what I can do and what the best course of action is. I hope that now that we do have a new superintendent, we'll be able to do all of these things and have more direction than we've had in the last 2 years. So,
Mr. Bahir.
So last week I got this in the mail, like everybody else here, and we all probably cried together when we got our tax breakdown, right? So 64% of our taxes go to the River Edge schools, and the budget is available on our district website. Our 21-22 budget is $23,459,000, over which $16 million comes from our tax money, and the rest comes from government aid, grants, things like that. We don't have a lot in our town. We don't have a downtown area with lounges and bars and restaurants and things like that. Unfortunately, we don't generate a lot of the tax revenue. We carry that burden. And we're only spending $18,631 per student. That was as of 2019, which is the fourth lowest in Bergen County, believe it or not, despite the fact that we pay such high taxes. So we actually do a lot with a little, and I have to commend the board and the super that, the interim super, the super before, they do a great job managing that money. We have to look for a different way to make sure that we get some income for our schools. We have to encourage the growth of our town in different ways. And I know that's a common theme that a lot of people talk about. And our town is literally built around our schools. And even if you don't have students or children in the school, it helps us enjoy high property values. So it's really important for us to manage that budget wisely. As it stands, the PTO has to buy books and different things for the students. So I think we actually do a pretty good job with what we have.
Mr. Sin.
Since we have a budget cap of 2%, we try to manage our increase within that cap. But just natural because, let's say, salary increase and other portion, which is continuously increasing, it's very hard to keep it in certain amount. So we have to struggle with the limited resources, but we want to implement better programs for the, academic excellency of the school. So to be struggling. So instead of generating income, we implementing shared services. So we try to reduce our expenses on certain portions, and also reducing the students sending out of district, which costs a lot of money to the district. Instead, we keep them in the district, and also we can also receive special ed students from the out of district, which can offset our expense in certain amount. That's how we try to balance our budget. Thank you.
We're going to just go for a minute on this question. Do you believe that transparency between the board and the public is important? If so, what steps would you take to increase transparency? Do you feel that includes that all questions and concerns asked by parents are addressed in a professional and thoughtful manner with follow-up? Now we're going to start with this communication.
I do believe that transparency between parents and board. To me, it's very important because I think that in the last 18 to last year and a half, I would say there has not been much communication as well as citizens. I know that it's not easy being on the board from what I've heard. There are a lot of rules that you need to follow and ways of going about things, but I do still think that it is important for the public to feel that you are listening to them when they have a question, especially when it comes to their children. My children are very important to me, and I will do whatever I need to do to figure out what's going on. I feel that school, you have my kids for 8 hours a day normally, and so I definitely always want to know what's going on with them. And I think that if a parent or even a member of the community asks a question, at some point it should be addressed.
The school board is bound by legal procedures. So anything that we discuss as a forum in public, we have to discuss in public. Now, there's certain things we cannot discuss. So any privacy issues, personnel, any legal contracts, negotiations, or anything dealing with security. Those are things legally we are not allowed to discuss in public. And so the board will go into executive session at that time. However, everything else has to be discussed in public, and that is what the board has done. Any questions that were given, I know that the superintendent and the board answered them the best that they could. Sometimes there are no answers, and so that we cannot give a promise or answer something that we don't have answers to. So,
Mr. Sin.
I'm a proponent of open meeting, online or broadcasting from the day on. That way we don't have to deal with the transparency. Every meeting is open to public, either online or by broadcasting, so anybody can see it or hear it. And all the questions raised to the board by email, Facebook, whatnot, has to be answered appropriately in timely manner. So there is no such a thing as obviously there is a limit of the personal matter and legal matter can be restricted, but other than that, has to be answered to the parents and also constituents in timely manner.
Ms. Sickles?
Thank you. 100%. I mean, the board represents the community as a whole, and much of that community are the parents, especially in this district where most of us live here because of the schools. I think specifically, board-specific improvements that I wish had been there over the past year and a half was just visibility, and it wasn't a lot, and it didn't cost anything. But just discussing first the COVID issues that we had, rather than waiting until 2.5 hours into the meeting for parents to ask questions to get answers. Also bringing up or putting policies on the agenda, rather than putting a number, say what the policy is, what the vote is on it. And I think it would really be helpful to provide the community, parents alike, with a little bit, I know conversations happen in private, the meetings are really there to make decisions. I agree with Mr. Sims. But to have a little bit of conversation to understand the board's thought process and how they came to that decision and vote.
Mr. Mozzarella?
Yes, I obviously believe transparency is important. I do believe the board is transparent, but transparent is a subjective word, right? So if you want to tell the community about the principal's report or the activities that are coming up next school year, yes, you're giving us information. But during the last 2 years, the parents have wanted different types of information and they want to prioritize. As Lauren mentioned, we wait on meetings for 2.5 hours just to make a comment. And guess what? A comment doesn't have to be answered. And Ms. Peng is right, we're bound by laws. And there's policies in place for this. You get 2 minutes of comment, and there's no need to answer back. But unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures. So if you recognize a change in the environment, that maybe your policy is out of date, or maybe we have to reprioritize something, as board members, if you can't handle it yourself, you take it up to change. You make a case for your district. I've listened to my district. This is what they're saying. This is what they want, and try to force the issue and make the change.
Mr. Madeira?
So a lot of the communication that parents need and want comes from the school itself, comes from the superintendent, comes from the principals, the teachers. We've all sent off emails and sometimes not gotten a response for a week or 2 weeks. I think that, communication is a full-time job. For some things, we get over-communication. We get 300 emails about sports or a sale or something like that, and then the one email that you really need is hard to get. So I think one of the first things I would do would be to try to set up a liaison between the parents and the board, or a method of collecting questions and information so that it is visible to everyone. The word transparency kind of assumes that there's something that someone is hiding, and I don't believe anyone is hiding anything because it's all there for you if you need to go look for it, but it is hard to find. So we need to organize the information better. We need to proactively share it for people who need it, and then not overshare for other people who aren't interested in those things. It's the key to running our district successfully and making parents feel like they're involved and informed.
Thank you. 1 minute for the answers. What are your thoughts on expanding or improving aftercare and enrichment programs? And we're going to start with Mr. Patiri.
I know this is a big issue. We moved here from New York City, and when we found out that there wasn't, that we had to pay for before care or after care, we were surprised by that. We currently have a tutor who I think is fantastic, and thank God for her. She's helped our children so much over the last year, but we shouldn't have to pay for something like that. With the amount of taxes that we pay in this town together, I think we can do a better job of setting up something more structured in the morning, in the evening, so people can go back to work and feel that their kids are in a safe place with structured learning, not just free time and free play. I think we do need to expand some of the services that we offer at the school, and that would, obviously, there are teacher contracts, there are things that we'd have to manage, but there are ways that we can include our children and make it fun for them before and after school in learning and developing those resources for parents who need them. Not everybody can afford to pay for early drop-off or late pickup.
Mr. Sue,
My own children gone through after-school program in Cherry Hill School. They loved it. I love to see, you have that kind of service in the district, but that costs district a lot of money. I mean, you cannot, I have no number in my head, but, and also the things you have to go through, and then the contract negotiation with the teachers, this and that, that's, I would say that's not possible. That's why we use outside a vendor, not vendor, but the people who actually live in town and organize to provide for the after school care, which is, and also their services with a nominal number. So I'll just encourage them use the school facility, provide them the space to have the kind of service available for the students in the district.
Mr. Mozzarella?
Yes, well, I am in favor of expanding aftercare enrichment. I think, obviously, these days, especially if you live in River Edge, likely both parents are working, right? And they're very active. There's clubs, there's sports, there's other things. We need sometimes for our kids to be with trusted adults in a supportive environment, and both of these things provide that. So if we don't provide that, people are going to move out of the town, and then we lose taxpayers, and everybody suffers. So I'm definitely in favor of providing the funding necessary and the resources to expand both of the programs.
Okay.
I too am in favor of expanding the after-school program or enrichment program. My son loved when he was able to go to aftercare. It was such a positive experience for him. However, as the board, we rent out the space to the after-school program. So what they are able to do, we have to work together. We can't impose that they expand in a certain way or that they include certain programs. We can work with the director, share what the community is desiring. One of the things was later pickup, as a lot of families, parents were working in the city. So that was something the administration was trying to work with the director to see if that was possible. However, that's not something we can enforce, and they are simply just renting the space from us, and that is a source of revenue for us. But they are invested in this community, and so they're willing to work with the board and the district to make things positive for the community.
Ms. Pickle?
Thank you. I think with before care and aftercare, it is an ideal world where we would have that included in our current tax dollars. But the reality of the situation is that in Jersey, there's a lot of other areas that are lower income with more families in need that can't afford to live in River Edge. And the funding, like we hear Governor Murphy talking about it now, about universal pre-K. And that probably starts there first before we get universal, aftercare. So in regard to where that comes to us, paying for aftercare, that means it would have to come out of our tax dollars first, 100%. I don't think it's such a big ask. I don't think it's something that we can find within our current budget. Again, it's a great idea, but I'd like to see, I guess, more of the budget behind it. And we'd have to prioritize it and realize that we're prioritizing it with most of the weight on our own shoulders here in River Edge.
I think it is very important for parents to have a safe place for their children to go, that they will be supported and able to have a social learning as well as even being able to do help with homework. I was actually very helpful to a couple of parents in town throughout COVID because they had nowhere to send their kids. And I was honestly a little disappointed with when school came back into play this year that our before and after care program had shortened the amount of kids that they are taking less kids and charging more money. I think we could have done a little bit of a better job in trying to find different programs possibly to take over for them. So I think we need to talk about that. I know that they're under contract, but I do think that we need to help working parents.
A minute for the question for the answer. What is your position on children and parent education on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Do you see value in these events? Would you propose changes if given a chance to do so? And we're going to start with Ms. Pickle.
So this past year, it was a state mandate that an EDI curriculum be added to our children's education. And I've attended some of the parent courses on it from the district, which were helpful considering it's a new curriculum. And I felt like it was a great message. It's about really coming down to being a good person, including your peers, and moving ahead as a group, and not being divisive. And I think that's something that our children should learn and something that our community as a whole should remember. So to me, it's a great message. It gives our students a well-rounded education. And I think, the way that River Edge is handling it right now is they're doing a great job.
Mr. Muscarella.
Yeah, I met with Ms. Moran, the supervisor of the curriculum, and Mr. James, who heads the EDI committee over the summer. I also attended the EDI parent meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I can say I think River Edge has really done an amazing job implementing the policies that have been issued down to them from the government. End of the day, what do we want from this? We want all students to feel valued and respected. We also want students to understand historical contexts that have changed, that have led to events that have changed the world. And I really think the curriculum they put in place, the books that they have for children reading, are establishing all those things. So, so far so good on the EDI front in River Edge.
Mr. Sim?
Our student population in schools reflects the diversity of the town and also the state and the trend. So students naturally learning from that diversity amongst their friends, but that doesn't reflect to our steps. So that's something we have to work on so that diversity, inclusion, and equity, that's not only reflected in the student population, but also the steps as well. Thank you.
Mr. Gutierrez?
I think EDI is great. It's not something new that River Edge Schools is doing. It's been around for a very long time before it became a mandate by the state. I attended the same training actually with Sebastian a couple of weeks ago, and I've read the entire curriculum from kindergarten to 6th grade, the book list for every single grade, and it teaches things like what's cool about your holiday, what's cool about my holiday, how are they different? How do you accept a girl in a wheelchair who can't play tag with you, but how do you make her feel included on the playground? There's a lot of valuable stuff there. If you look at the diversity in our school system, 47% of our kids are white. The rest of them are of different races, and that includes Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Black, and other races. And our kids are diverse. This isn't a thing that kids are pulled out to do. It's just woven into the regular curriculum. And I think it's a positive thing. It obviously starts at home, but what the teachers have done, I think so far has been great.
Ms. Hastings?
I think that our district has done a very good job with the EDI curriculum so far. I too have also read through all of the books from K through 6, and think that being organized for all of our kids. I think that our community actually is very diverse, and so our town does a very good job of being inclusive.
Okay.
This is a topic that's really dear to my heart because I think that, as a young child, being an immigrant in a very suburban neighborhood where no one else looked like me, the books didn't look like me, the teachers didn't look like me. It was very easy to just assimilate to the culture and ignore my own heritage and ignore, my family's culture. I think that the fact that we are raising kids in this kind of environment where my kids can learn from other students that come from different cultures, I think it's to be celebrated. And I honestly look forward to the conversations and the mindsets that my kids will have as we different. And so we're just here to raise the citizens of the world.
Thank you. A minute to answer. How would you plan on supporting decisions that the majority of Board of Ed members have made, perhaps even voted on, but which you were not in favor of? In effect, what qualities do you possess that would make you a good team player on the Board of Ed? And let's start with Mr. Mozzarella.
Well, that's bound to happen, right? You're not going to have a unanimous vote on everything. And that's important. You don't necessarily want that. That's why you want diversity on the board. You want different opinions. You want to be informed from different perspectives. And then the majority wins. And if you're not the majority, then you have to support it. It's part of the code of ethics for the board. You be a collaborative team player. You represent yourselves as one group, and you support the decisions whether you like it or not. Now, as a board member, one of the key jobs is to persuade the other members of the board as to why you think you're right. And if that doesn't work, again, you need to move on. I bring a lot of collaborative skill set to the board. I've been, like I said, I've been working in a global company for many years, managed many teams, and one of the key elements to a successful career in that type of industry is to be collaborative, is to work with others. You're not the smartest person in a room. Take the information with you and make informed decisions. That is the only way to operate.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Sorry, I can give you an example of something. When I was on the River Edge Reopening Committee in 2020, we worked through the whole summer, meeting every week for hours, trying to get the schools reopened safely for the kids. My wife and I never intended to send our kids back in person. In fact, we didn't send them back in person until May. And I did that because I knew that there were families who wanted to send their kids back, and I knew there were families that needed to send their kids back because of their jobs, their childcare. And I did everything I could through that whole summer to make sure that schools got open on that committee. You need someone who's on the board, who knows how to work with a team, who, there's different individual needs, different views, different wants, and that's okay. That's what makes our district good. I promise that every decision I make, if I'm lucky enough to get onto the board, is going to be what's right for every family and every child in River Edge, and not just for only my children. It's going to be what's good for the community.
Ms. Hagan.
I am a very hardworking person. I have always paid attention to everybody's thoughts and feelings, and I find that sometimes it's exhausting, actually, if I'm being honest. But I think that it is very good to have all different kinds of perspectives on the Board of Ed, whether you're a parent or you are a businessman. I feel that it's nice to be able to talk and to discuss and hopefully make the best decisions that we can.
Ms. Kittle.
Thank you. So I think a lot of the times when you're sitting around the table, whether it be on a board or you're sitting at a project and you have different people who want different things or think that we should move in different directions, it's hard to first swallow that and figure out how we move forward. And I think the way to do that is what you do is you take that original ask and then you break it down and you say, okay, what are we really asking here? What are different ways that, overall looking at this, what does that really break down from an A, B, and C? And I think talking through that, communicating, really just thinking about different options to get to that larger destination is where you really start to build valuable ground with everyone on the board. And you can really figure out how to meet in the middle or really maybe persuade one another to find the best option for our district and community.
Ms. King?
So one of the positive things about being on the board is that you're never working by yourself. That an individual board member has no power. It's when you come together as a whole board that can you make a difference in a district. And so one of the things I've learned is that it's really important for myself to be informed, to be trained, to understand how it works so that I can just do my best to bring forth any concerns or questions that I have with my fellow board members. I think the other thing that's really important is to listen. Oftentimes we're so quick to share our own perspective. However, what we have to do is really listen to where other people are coming from and their concerns and come to an agreement. And sometimes you won't. Sometimes you will disagree. However, I think it's important for our students to be able to work together as a board so that we can be united.
Mr. Sin?
In addition to what Mrs. Khan said, board members own whatever the decision we made. Even though I disagree with the decision, I own it and I'll be an advocate. So I have to bring it out to the public and as if I'm the supporter of that decision. So that's how I work and how the board operates. Thank you.
Next question, answers in a minute. What issues do you believe our district needs to address in its academic programs and offerings? What changes would you recommend? And we're going to start with Ms. Green.
So I think in an ideal world, we would meet every single need for every student. And I think our district has been working to do that for every student. Not just students who are falling behind, but students who are ahead. I think what we can improve on is also the students who are in the middle, who are doing fine, but perhaps aren't posing any big risks or any challenges. And so I think what we can, with our What I Need program, I think what we can improve on is that we meet the needs of all the students and not just the bottom or the top.
Ms. Tickle.
In regard to academic offering, I think the focus on, math, science, and ELA are critical. Especially, I just think of it actually going back to, I used to do the interviews for interns at my previous bank for technology trading. And I always found it so frustrating, interviewed from local universities, Rutgers, Columbia, New Jersey Institute of Technology. And I can't tell you how often I was interviewing people who came from other countries who were here, for the college education. And how disappointing it was to be, sitting in New Jersey and have my kids go to New Jersey public schools and not having as many Jersey kids be in that population. So I think with that, I like to think like big picture with that. I remember saying, where are the Jersey kids? What can we do more to expand? Maybe we expand technology. Do we focus more on science? I think those are good conversations to be had.
Mr. Material.
So in 1998 and 99, we were a blue ribbon school district, and I think with the right leadership, we should get back there. One thing that I think, and it's not necessarily that we do wrong, but I think that we can change, is that we work with a deficit kind of model of assessment for where do your kids need help and what do they need to work on. And I think we need to have some structure behind helping your kids play to their strengths and do better. Like I said earlier, we always hear that feedback that your son or daughter is right where they should be. And I think we should work towards how do we get your kids to excel in something that they're very good at. Let's focus on some of their strengths. I'm gonna push the board to focus on having a guiding principle of making our students excellent for every single grade, and everything goes back to that principle. Every conversation, does it make us better? Does it make our students reach that excellence? And if it doesn't, we shouldn't even talk about it. And even if we don't reach that, we should shoot for that all of the time. It needs to be our main focus for our students.
Ms. Hastings.
I think some parents actually don't even know what the program is, or don't really understand how it works. So I think that there was a better communication between the administrators with the teachers and then the teachers with the parents. I know that a lot of parents go on and really need decisions way of thinking, and I'm definitely have been one of them. But then I also want to know what my kid is doing good at so that I can help them to even excel more. And I would think that would help other parents as well to know exactly where they're taking things.
Mr. Sims.
One thing I'm excited about our incoming superintendent is that her experience with the international language lesson. So that's something I want to emphasize. Learning language other than Spanish. Could be Chinese, could be Korean, could be something else. The language carries a lot of things that children can learn many things from the learning other languages. And also, I want to emphasize on the gifted and talented program. That's how we excel, providing the instruction and the program for the students who are excelling in certain areas of curriculum. So that make our that's promoting the excellence in the academic as well. Thank you.
Mr. Mascarello.
Oh, I honestly don't think any of us are in a position to talk about any type of changes to the academics other than repairing the learning loss caused by COVID. So 5 months behind in math, 4 months behind in reading. We need to focus on those two things. And I know the school has. I know the school is spending more time in those core subjects and taking less time in the specials. There might be more things we can do. We won't know until the kids are properly evaluated. But that is first and foremost. Once we complete that, assuming we complete that, I do think we need to treat, we talked a lot tonight about special needs and IEPs, which obviously deserves a ton of attention. But this district also has a lot of high achievers, and those high achievers need to be challenged. So we need to consider children on both ends of the spectrum.
Thank you. Noticing that we have about 15 minutes before we're going to stop, we're going to go to closing statements of 2 minutes each. I just want to remind the audience that you get to vote for 3 candidates for Board of Ed. So we're going to start. They do lots for finishing up. And Mr. Mascarello goes first.
You have called on me first quite a lot tonight.
Excuse me?
Is that you called on me first quite a lot tonight. That's okay. Thank you. All right. So it's no secret that I became interested in running for the board during the school shutdown. And we're not unique as parents. As all over the country, parents are suddenly part of contested Board of Ed elections. I don't think any of us woke up one morning and said we wanted to be on the board. But when you see something that can be improved by your contributions, especially when your children and the community are at stake, it actually becomes a pretty easy decision. I've been through a lot in my life, and I've never backed away from a challenge. With me, you'll get a tireless work ethic, collaboration with all constituents, and leadership. When things get awkward, when things get chaotic, when life throws you curveballs, I'm the guy you want in that seat. We may not have direct board experience, but experience is an empty word. What have you accomplished? What have you succeeded? With us, and when I say us, I mean myself, Lawrence Default, Ariana Hastings, we are running under the same banner. You get 3 parents with a proven track record of getting things done. It may not always be pretty, and sometimes that's what it takes. So if you want complacency, reluctance, if you want to be told that everything's always sunshine and rainbows, don't vote for us. This isn't a glee cup. This is our kids' livelihood. So if you want people that first and foremost listen, people that can adapt to a changing environment, people that will challenge, people that will fight and roll up their sleeves, then vote Default Muscarella Hastings.
Thank you. Ariana Hastings?
Tonight has been a very informative and learning experience for myself. It has very much put me out of my comfort zone. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have answered the questions asked by those of our community to the best of my ability. If elected, I commit to ensuring that all students and stakeholders have a voice in order to serve inclusively and accurately. I am committed to the continued success of our River Edge schools as I truly believe in the value of public education. I'm a mom who can offer a parent perspective for the sake of my children and yours. If you are looking for someone who is honest, dedicated to attention to detail, and listens fully to all voices, then please vote for Rise 6 on November 2nd. Thank you.
Gordon King?
Once again, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight and to listen to all our answers. I think it's really important that we are informed as we go to the polling places. I just want to share that my past 3 years on the board have been very rewarding, but also challenging. But I know that there is a lot more work to be done. As the new superintendent comes, I'm excited to work with her and our administrators to really move forward past this pandemic and thinking about the things that we talked about tonight, like academic loss, like space, things that we have to address, but also thinking about the social and mental well-being of our students, our staff members. It's not a sprint, it's going to be a marathon, and we have a lot to do. I think what we need is an experienced board to do that with the superintendent. And so I hope that we have answered a lot of your questions tonight. I hope that you will be feeling a bit more informed about these candidates. And I hope that everyone goes up to vote on November 2nd or even earlier, early voting ballot. Thank you.
Lauren Seifel?
Thank you. Actually, before I start my closing, I just want to say one thing and to kind of lead into it. It's so great, and I think Mr. Sin noted it as well, to have everyone out here speaking. And I think if our board spoke this much, I realize there's only so much time during a board meeting, but to get this transparency and feel from everyone about what everyone's thinking, the past year and a half would have been a lot easier. That being said, last year I did put myself out there by speaking up with other parents because I truly felt that our kids needed more than what they were receiving a year and a half into the pandemic. As parents, teachers, and community members, we know that the best thing we can provide our children is an education, full stop. An education that focuses on their social, emotional, and academic success and well-being. Most of us live here for that purpose, and we've either had a great experience already in River Edge, or we've heard about the great reputation that River Edge has. While we may have different experiences and feelings on certain subjects that have been discussed tonight and others, an excellent education and the opportunities it brings is something that we can all agree on, and that we want for this community and for our children. That being said, I'm running for the board because I want everyone to have a voice and a value in being part of that education. Parents, members of our community who do not have children in, but have, maybe have experienced it in the past, and teachers and students in our admin. We all deserve the ability to easily communicate with one another and understand what is best for our community as a whole and children. And that's why I hope on November 2nd, everyone takes the opportunity to get out and vote. Again, yep, myself, Sebastian, and Ariana are running under the same ballot. So I hope you guys take the time to come out and vote for us. And thank you very much, and thank you to the PTO and Mrs. King for hosting tonight.
Thank you, Jane. Tim.
Thank you. I've been on the board almost 10 years, so I'm thinking about what was it look like 10 years ago versus now. So the school settings and those students' achievement and performance, everything, it was growing up, not going down. The quality of the education has been improved. The facility is kept nice and neat, and budget obviously increased every year, but we are within our limitation. We kept in the limitation so that it doesn't raise rapidly. I share this, but I ran for 5 consecutive years before I first elected to the school board. As an immigrant speaking English as a second language, yes, I have a limitation, and also the reception of the community wasn't like. But I believe this is an unintended consequence. But because of this election, we may go back to 14 years back. No representation from Asian community at all. So that concerns me. I have no problem, not serving the school board. I've been on the board 10 years. And also I serve the community as a firefighter and EMT. So I'll serve the people here anyway. But my big concern is that, as I said, unintended consequence, we may not see the Asian representation to the school board. That concerns me. So think about it, and if we've done that wrong, and then that's fine. But if we did our job well, and also we enhance the school board better, then consider what I say. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank the candidates for putting them, no, one more. I made a mistake because you don't want to say I am sorry, but
I'll say a couple things.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you, that's okay.
Let's be brave.
So I don't want to just serve on the board for the next 6 months. I'm committed to working hard for the next 3 years. I'm not a one-issue candidate. I have short, medium, and long-term goals for addressing the needs of our kids with curriculum, with limited space, the budget, working with a new superintendent, improving communication. Something we didn't get a chance to talk about tonight is supporting our teachers and our administrators who've done an amazing job through this pandemic, and we thank them so much for that. The pandemic's either going to go away or we're going to have to learn how to live with it, and that's just a fact, okay? But what we do need to focus on is our children's future, and I think it's a rare opportunity for us as a community to go in a new direction and bring our schools back even stronger than they were before, bring new ideas. I think it's great that people want to volunteer and serve on the board, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're qualified to do that job. It's a very complicated job. There's a lot of training, there's a lot of responsibility ethically, and I think we should say thank you to the people who have served and are serving now on the board and the things they've done, and I do congratulate anyone who wants to volunteer going forward. It's a serious commitment. What a school district does is important, but so is how they do it. And I think the board sets the tone for how we're going to represent our children in schools and how we're going to represent the families in town. River Edge needs someone with real experience in leadership, and I am that person. I'm asking for your support and your vote to serve you on the Board of Education. And thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight and listening to us speak. Have a good night. Thank you.
Yes, I want to thank the audience for being very attentive, and the candidates for, as I say, putting yourselves out there. Forgive me for my mistakes this evening. It's hard to hear, see, whatever, but everybody got a chance to answer all the questions that were asked. We had many more questions than could be asked in the 75 minutes or so that we had for that time. I don't know if the candidates are willing, but perhaps if you want to ask a specific candidate face to face, 6 feet apart, a question, maybe they'll stick around. I also know that the PTO has to straighten up in here. If you're willing to stick around and help them, go for it. And I think I would say you can give the candidates some applause now. And thank you